the Tusken Raiders line for me actually was one where it's like, oh, that's, you know, like I get it. And
that one, I'm coming in now with that's my hot take on the Swish, is it ends very poorly. The Tusken Raiders, you go through this whole thing and they're all clever and they're all sort of not obscure, because Elizabeth Shue, even Patti Smythe, these are all performers who are from the past, who you kind of need to work a little bit, and they're all real people. Everyone, I think, is a real person. And then you get to the Tusken Raiders.
Swishing through the city center, I did a couple favors for these guys that look like Tusken Raiders,
which are characters in Star Wars. Star Wars, like all this other stuff, is like Americana, and like all the references are based in real locations, Newport News, Ybor City. We never get an Alderaan reference throughout the whole. It just Tatooine, like it doesn't fit. It's a miss. It's a complete miss for me. It's not thematically consistent with the rest of the song or with the rest of the mission. It rhymes with favors, which I think is why it's there. And the song just like splats right there. It was going so well and going so hard. And then it just lands on a reference that doesn't fit the other references. And then the song is just over. And the Tusken Raiders, like, guys don't look like Tusken Raiders. They're like weird with the goggles and stuff, right?
Have you been to City Center, guys? Mike? Have you spent time in the dilapidated Middle America Mall City Center? We don't know what people were wearing at that time.
I've seen you think it's just a reference to their clothes? I thought it was to their faces. Like, no, I think, and the Tusken Raider is the guy, like when Luke falls off his horse or something, a guy zaps him with like a magic wizard staff, and then he's going like, I think that's a Tusken Raider.
Yeah. It's the tall guys, not the Jawas, right, who are on Tatooine.
The tall guys, but not the Jawas.
Yeah.
You know what? If he had been like, I got some Jawas knocked me off my bicycle, I think I would. That might have been a better ending, maybe. So can you defend the ending of the Swish? Here's the one caveat. You can't say because it's the end to a great song, it's great.
Yeah, I think consistency in the song is there throughout. Time period wise, Tusken Raiders were introduced to the American population a little bit earlier than some of these other these other bands. That's not a positive for In Its Corner necessarily. They come first in the chronology of Americana. But in hindsight, at least, it seems to be quite the galvanizing cry from the mosh pit at Hold Steady shows, if nothing else. And I think people hang on to that reference because that's one that people are familiar with. Even though it's a relatively subtle Star Wars reference, it's one that people get maybe more than they do any of these other ones. So in a live atmosphere, I think it does resonate. As it relates to the rest of the song, though, I agree with you that it's definitely an outlier.
I've got two cases to make for it. One is, as we're setting up for it, we're talking about moving pictures. So you've kind of, when you're thinking about moving pictures, especially if we're thinking about the 80s, Star Wars, moving pictures, blockbusters, mm-hmm. I think you've got that. I think as far as the looks, I'm picturing dudes cooking up meth or something like that. Like I'm picturing guys with goggles. I don't know if that's, I'm like, again, well out of my
Put Daniel knowledge. In AP Lit class. Amazing. All right. That's good. Okay. So you had more?
I had one last one was just that one of the interviews they did in 2004, they talk about clever kids and they talk about, it's like there's hardcore kids and then there's clever kids who like kind of like hardcore, but they like Star Wars too.
Nerds.
I thought that was like a funny, it's obviously not a reference to the interview, but like just sort of a funny Star Wars is in the universe of Craig Finn's thought process and sort of me.
So one of these like wannabe party guys, one of these Minnesota suburbs kids ventures out of his comfort zone and he has like a scary run-in with some drug dealers or whatever. He's like one of the freaks and geeks from that show. And he goes back to his like nerdy friends and he goes like, wow, what a weekend. Those guys looked like Tusken Raiders. You know what I mean? Is that what you're saying, Daniel? Like this is like the nerdy side of the scenester lifestyle?
I'm giving that to you. I think that was like, I think it's more just that it's not so out of left field. That's all I was saying. But yeah, like I think that's a potential way to go with it. It doesn't bother me. I think it's a good. I'm comfortable with the ending.
Okay.
Endorse.
You endorse the ending, so it's 2-1.